Hi, this is Susan Cowsill here with John on Retrospectives on 3SER KC Radio.
Now, I've got to talk about this new record.
Okay, let's do.
The last time we spoke was just a few months before Katrina. So much has happened in your life between then and now, but you seem to have come out the other side pretty strong. And how difficult was it, though, at times in those darkest hours to remain positive and keep the faith?
Oh, Lordy. Probably, other than giving birth, one of the most difficult processes I've ever been through. And I've been through quite a few challenging personal life moments in my time. Katrina really kicked my butt. However, that being said, just like anything else, I'm glad to report that I think life being so precious and wonderful always kind of prevails over whatever the sidekick is trying to give you. You know what I mean? It's like whatever gets laid in our path, we seem to manage through because it's so very nice to be here.
Yeah.
So we're doing okay. We're doing okay, and it really took me out for a while. In fact, I was thinking of going into a witness program so that people didn't recognize me.
Was this record a therapeutic experience at all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was very cathartic. The songs that are on Lighthouse were written over the last 4 years. We're on our 5th anniversary of Katrina now, and really not intentionally in any way, shape, or form. Just kind of kept, as music comes out of me, I write it down. It's like I'm just the channeler, and all these things, all the music that you're hearing on Lighthouse came through me during the last 4 years. I had to actually end up finishing all these songs when it finally came down to making the record, because they weren't finished, because I couldn't finish a sentence, never mind a whole song. And very cathartic, and strangely enough, when we went to go ahead and record Lighthouse, was a very emotional process that I wasn't anticipating. I didn't anticipate it being I guess I just wasn't thinking. It's like I was going in to do a job, get the music done, make the record, which I've done 1,000 times. And in doing that this time, it was really quite an emotional experience that I wasn't anticipating, and kind of unprecedented, if you will.
Do you come out of it with a sense of closure?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that, I think, is the beautiful part of music. There's an actual class you can take, and there's an actual position you can teach called music therapy. And I think it is a very viable, worthwhile position in education, because music is healing. Music heals all wounds. It really does.
Before Katrina, would you have pictured yourself as someone with the resilience to come through something of this magnitude? And did you learn something about yourself through it all?
I pictured myself that way, absolutely.
Yeah.
However, the magnitude of Katrina definitely challenged that opinion I had of myself. And it really was the first time something happened to me that I had to step back and go, I'm not sure if I can do this. And so it was one of my bigger opponents. And yet, and at the same time, and I do feel this is the way it is with all challenges, it was my biggest teacher. The bigger your challenge, the bigger your reward. if you can meet it. And coming through Katrina, for me, with many other things for her, really told me that I can pretty much take anything. and it's a good thing. It's not a negative thing. I'm not saying that in a negative fashion at all. It was a great learning experience.
Was it always apparent to you that this record was going to have this theme about it? Was that going to be the way always from the start?
Nope. I don't plan things except for my children's lunches and dinners, and on a creative level, I don't even know what's happening half the time. Yeah, seriously, I feel like a medium or something. You know what I mean? Mm. And had no intention of writing a Katrina record. For me, my music, whatever is happening in my life at the time is what comes out of my body, out of my brain, out of my spirit. And really, the 4 years following Katrina were very numbing. And really, a lot of the time, at least for sure, for the first 2 years, going through just the motions of keeping moving on. So as this music was coming to me, I would just write it down, Russ as well. Just keep writing it down, put it aside, and we'll get to it, So once we decided that we were going to make Lighthouse and that we had a recording date, we had an organization, the Threadheads, who are the most amazing people on the planet, who funded the record. Once you have that kind of commitment by other people, then that promotes your ability to make a commitment. And at that point, sat down and went, okay, got to look through all these pieces of paper and see what we've got. And lo and behold, once I looked at the soup that is Lighthouse, it was like, oh wow. Oh boy, do people really want to take this journey with me? But I can't control that. I mean, I am who I am, and I write what I write. So yeah. Intentional, I'd like to say it was. That would make me actually sound, like I knew what I was doing.
There's a famous quote of Bob Dylan's when he was interviewed way back about his Blood on the Tracks album, that he couldn't understand people wanting to listen to songs that dealt with that kind of pain. And although the pain you were going through was a totally different situation, you did feel a bit that way too?
Yes. In the beginning, when I was, as you write and as you're sitting there like strumming these things out and, in your private room and you're going, oh my God. It's like calling up a friend and going, oh, you don't really want to do that. I don't think it's in our nature, or maybe it's in some people's nature. It's not in mine to call up and kvetch with somebody on the phone. And sometimes in listening to these songs, as I'm going along, I'm like, oh my God, it's like, this is personal. Everybody doesn't need to hear this. That's kind of your first reaction. Mm. Second is, and what has come full circle for me for sure, is that we all share and experience the same emotions. Your title can be different. Mine says hurricane. Somebody else's might say divorce. Somebody else's might say, challenging illness. Whatever it is, life has got its most beautiful moments, and then it has those learning, challenging moments. And I realized as I was going through and being, personally hyper aware that this was a very specifically personal to our experience of Katrina kind of record. If I were to sit back and listen to this music and not think of a hurricane and not think of New Orleans, hey, it's just life. Mm. I've got a song called It's the Way That It Goes. And that pretty much sums the whole thing up, and actually thought about maybe that being the title of the record, because you know what? Stuff happens. Yeah. And it happens to all of us, and our sorrow and our grief and our pain, I think is completely mutual, and you just have a different title on it. That's what I think.
That is for me one of the standout songs on the record. It's a great motto for life, really, isn't it?
Works for me. Thank you, by the way.
The record opens with Dragonflies, which on the surface sounds like quite a simple pop tune, but I believe there's an underlying story to it.
Yeah, it is a simple pop tune. Will definitely remains that. The song is about my brother Barry's coming and gone, in and out, in my life, out of my life. And I think it was a fitting environment for it to be a simple, sweet, light pop tune, in that his presence here on the earth was very weighty. He had a heavy life. And his departure was also heavy. But one of the elements that came to me anyway, and y'all can think I'm crazy and I really could care less, is that the theme of it came about when he showed up after he passed away. He told all of us that he was coming back into this world as a giant, enormous, noble, majestic oak tree. That is how he always envisioned his reincarnation. And about a week after we had gotten word that he was gone, I was driving in my Kia Sedona, my mini mom van, and this dragonfly had showed up in my driver's side window, like really hovering with me, really staying like way too long as I'm going down the street and looking at me. Now, this is, of course, where my therapist comes in, but, whatever. And then, it was going in front of me and going to the side of me and going in front and going to the side. And it was really unusual. I mean, that had never happened to me before in my entire life, and which is very long. And so I kind of chalked it up for whatever. And I had my own, one does a lot of things when they're grieving. You need to find signs, you need to find spaces that make you feel better. So I decided, of course, that was B. And, but over the next 4 months, so many different occurrences happened featuring a singular, not one, not two, not three, not four, just one dragonfly. And showed up in way too many for me to discuss here with you at this time. But the bottom line was, I realized that for me, and in my belief system, this was my brother checking in with me. And all I could think of was like, oh, dude, so sorry about the whole tree thing. You're just a little freaking dragonfly. How funny was that on a little sister level? I found it kind of humorous. And then I did find out that dragonflies only live for 30 days. So I kind of equated, and then when I found that out, I remember sending out, because I talk to Barry all the time, because I'm, insane. But, and I remember saying to him, like, oh, wow, so was, your dragonfly thing, reincarnation purgatory? You have to spend 30 days in this little, makeshift place, and I do believe that my brother was very deserved of being a beautiful oak tree. So that's it. And I was contemplating it one evening here in beautiful New Orleans, all by myself one weekend, had a couple of glasses of wine. And only in New Orleans can you walk around with an actual wine glass in your pocket, John.
Couldn't do that here.
I don't think so.
No. One of Barry's songs does appear on the album, with your brother singing with you. So that must have been one very special recording moment for you.
It was awesome. It was really awesome. And in fact, if you go to our website, just as of yesterday, we have uploaded a video that was taken by the people who are making a Cowsill documentary with us. We're making the Cowsills documentary, and River of Love was recorded in Los Angeles at my incredibly dear friend Jackson Brown's studio. He graciously donated his studio. His engineer donated his time, and we did the backgrounds for River of Love there. And our documentary crew came in and filmed it. And there's a total video up on our website, so y'all go check that out. It's pretty cool.
Fantastic.
It was a beautiful, it was a special day on all fronts. I mean, Jackson, I've known him since I was 14. Waddy Wachtel, who is a guitar player extraordinaire. I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, he was my brother Bill's best friend when they were teenagers. And known him since I was 5. And he came in and played guitar on River of Love. And then, of course, the brothers and my sister-in-law, Vicki Peterson, also came in and sang. And it was just was one of those magical days, you know. And I don't know, that's one of my favorite tracks, I think. The song, hey, you know, Barry was a trip, you know, and right after we found he was missing and couldn't find him, and he wasn't checking in with the family, or he wasn't showing up, for whatever reason, and I don't know why I picked this song, because he's got a million that are great. I started, you know what, I think I do know. My brother John and my sister-in-law Vicky and my ex-husband Peter Holsapple, I think they sang this song at Barry's memorial in New Orleans. I think that's, you know, it's so funny because sitting here talking to you right now, I think that's where I got the idea. I was like, wow, that's a great song. And I just started singing it in my set. And then, of course, you know, he shows up in the River of Love, I guess.
Your singing has gone to another level on this record. There's something even more heartfelt in your vocal, and I guess that's not surprising considering the subject matter. Is that something you can be aware of when delivering a vocal?
No, I'd have to be aware of what I'm doing. I'm not kidding. I feel like I'm trying to think of like what the chick's name is, who's like, you know, the medium like that, like Houdini hung out with. The deal is, and I'm not comparing myself to her, it's like I'm just a conduit. I am just a vessel for the music that, you know, comes through me, and for my own soul saving purposes. It's funny you should even say that, because a lot of these songs on this record, we were going through so much emotional fallout, if you will, while recording this record, that even my very trusted and dear friend Mike Mayu, engineer, producer, co-producer of this, and East Coast Mike, you know, they were kind of like, you know, I know you sound a little raspy, you sound a little, you know, how do you want to roll with this? And I was just like, I want to roll the way I'm rolling.
Yeah.
You know, this is what is going on. And if I don't, and even my sister-in-law Vicky, I was playing her, I'm trying to think what it was. I can't remember the song, but I said, you know, I just don't sound, you know, as Susan as maybe I should. And she said, you know what? We've all heard you sing, and we've all heard you do your Julie Andrews. You know, everybody knows you're a great singer. It's okay if you are just emoting right now. You don't need to worry about that. And I really found a lot of comfort in that, because, you know, quality wise, I mean, you know, sometimes I'm real raspy. I had a cold, you know, sometimes I'm just downright like not feeling real good, you know, and so some of these vocal performances for me are a little challenging to listen to in that regard. And yet now it's been like however many months or a year later, and I actually just had to listen to Lighthouse about 2 days ago, and I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay if I don't sound perfect. It's okay if I sound like I'm about to cry. It's okay if I sound, I don't know, slightly in my cups. It's okay.
It certainly is. It works, believe me.
Thank you, John.
Your version of Galveston is one of the most beautiful things I've heard in a long, long time. How did that arrangement come together?
I can't believe you said that. Thank you. God, that makes me feel good. That's a hard thing to do, you know, to cover such a classic, giant song. It came about because I traditionally, even in the Continental Drifters, always have done one cover song by a favorite songwriter. Sandy Denny was usually my choice in the Continental Drifters. And then on my first record, Just Believe It, Sandy Denny again.
Again, yeah.
Yeah. And so this time I thought I'd do something different. And I was, you know, one of my, it was like Burt Bacharach, Jimmy Webb, Carla Bonoff. And I was just like, I want to do a Jimmy Webb song. So I was thinking about doing Wichita Lineman, but I don't know what happened. I started thinking like a whole world has probably covered that song. And so I literally went, okay, what's my next, like right off the top of my head, favorite Webb song, which was Galveston. And then like 2 seconds later, I was like, oh my God, because Galveston at that time had just had their latest hit, hurricane-wise. And I was like, oh, okay, that's perfect. New Orleans, Louisiana, we got hit really hard with a hurricane, but guess what? So did Mississippi, and so has Florida, and so has Texas, and so, Gulf Coast, Orama. And I felt just in the spirit of the writer that I wanted to cover when that song came up, I knew it was the right song to do. And that's it. And the arrangement, I actually took a little bit of a survey, and I asked friends, family, fellow musicians, if I was to cover Galveston, do you want to hear a faster version, a slower version, an exact version? What do you want? And then everybody told me what they wanted. I totally disregarded everything they said and did the one I did. It's a beautiful melody. It's just a beautiful song. And then of course, and this is the funniest thing ever, like right after we did it, or maybe not right after, but I found out later, and I even talked to Lucinda about this recently because she came to one of my shows in Nashville. She, of course, sang Galveston, of course, with Jimmy Webb. I was like, seriously? You couldn't give me this? It's like, oh, well, I love your version, but guess what I did last week? I'm like, okay. Which is, I've heard it. Have you heard it?
I have, yeah. It's great.
Oh my God, it is extraordinary, and it puts it doesn't put mine anywhere. Mine is mine, and my heart was in it, and my love for the music and for the Webb guy is all good, but of course.
Actually, interpreting the songs of others is something you've done quite a bit of in recent times. Tell us about the Covered in Vinyl series.
Covered in Vinyl. Covered in Vinyl is, for all of you who don't know, a series that we do, and we've been doing for all 6 years now, where we take a classic vinyl record and we perform it from top to bottom, just like the record would play. Except for I talk a lot in between, which is a problem sometimes. Whatever, deal with it. And we're not a tribute band. I always like to make sure everybody understands that. So when they're listening to it, they're not going, well, it doesn't sound like the record. That's not what we're set out to do. We're just set out to perform and pay tribute, homage to a beautiful piece of music. And we've been doing it for, like I said, about 6 years, and it's really, really, really fun. We've got 2 CDs that are available for purchase, which are like kind of the best of Covered in Vinyl. We take songs from, different shows, and we've got a Covered in Vinyl 1 and a Covered in Vinyl 2. Hold on one second, would you, John?
Sure.
Hey, children in my house. Yeah. We're kind of talking to Australia on Skype. Hey, Australia. All the kids say, hey, Australia.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, y'all. Anyway, it's really fun. We keep doing it. It has its popular times of year. It has its, not so much. The idea came from a guy his name's Brad Hunt. He was managing us for about 3.5 minutes at one point, and he suggested it as a way to play in town, kind of keep a new audience coming through, because where somebody might be interested in Aerosmith, they don't know who I am, but they love Aerosmith, or they love Neil Young, or they love The Clash, or David Bowie, or whoever it is. They'll come out and watch and, to listen to this music, and then they'll, find out about me and hopefully just fall madly in love with me and buy every record I ever made. Yeah.
Must pay more credit here to Threadhead Records, the organisation that helped fund this album. It's quite a unique organisation. Tell us a little bit about what they do.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm really glad I was going to bring it around if you didn't. Threadheads, they are, I'll just try and make this as brief as I am only able to do. The Threadheads organization started as just a group of friends who would come to Jazz Fest every year, just from all over the country, and even I think some out of. And they were just a group of folks who would get together and meet up, by the flagpole at Jazz Fest and decide who they're going to listen to, just music appreciators. They grew in volume and members incredibly, and they just became friends. Like they would have a thread, like they became the Threadheads because of their, when Jazz Fest was over, they'd get online and they'd all talk to each other, about what fun they had. Well, that kind of morphed into a bigger idea that they would have these parties that called the Patry, which is just because I think they were just slightly altered and that they couldn't spell party anymore. So it's called the Patry. And they would have parties on the in-between days of Jazz Fest because they grew into such a large amount of people that some people could come for the first weekend, some people could come for the second weekend, but and sometimes they were missing certain acts they wanted to see. Locally speaking, I think the Threadhead's favorite guy was Paul Sanchez, and he's very instrumental really in kind of nurturing this concept in our community. So came to Paul Sanchez after Katrina at one point, and was asking him to play their party. They would ask local people to play their party so that everybody who was in could see bands that they possibly missed at Jazz Fest. That's their origin. They took it a little step further after Katrina. Story goes, and loosely, and if I'm not getting it all right, forgive me, but asked Paul Sanchez, when can we expect a new record from you? And Paulie said, I don't even have a place to live right now. I mean, I have no clue when you can expect a record from me. And they were like, well, what do you lack? Is it money that you need to make a new record? And Paul was like, well, yeah. And they were like, well, if we gave you that money, could you make a new record? Because they just want the music. And that's how it started. And Paul was like, well, hell yeah. And so he made, I think, one of the first ones, he and John Boutte. And it grew from there. They're a total grassroots, mom and pop. These are people who love Louisiana, New Orleans music, and knew and realized that we were not able to give them what they wanted because we were paralyzed in our situation. So they fund it. The agreement is, or the original agreements are, they will grant the money, handshake deal, and you pay them back what they lent you. And then after that, you own your own record, which in record company terms, I'm sure you know this, is unheard of.
Yeah.
We call them the non-profit record company, which is funny, right? They have been incredibly responsible for pretty much all the main music that's come out of New Orleans since Katrina. And we are incredibly grateful to them and do everything we can to keep the ball rolling. We'll play a Threadhead benefit, to put money back in for another artist, another young Louisiana, or actually it's mostly New Orleans, I think, artist. But the Threadheads rock. They even put our stuff into Grammy, like they are a member of the Grammy Association.
Ah.
They put our stuff in for Grammy nominations. In fact, a lot of us are up right now in the first run of being nominated for Grammys. So for anybody who's listening, go to the Grammy website and join, if you care to. Threadheads, without them, I know I would not have made this record. I wouldn't have even been able to put one foot in front of the other to get back up on the horse. So that's my answer.
Yeah, and the great thing is you're free to record without having to worry about deadlines and where the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's a love it. It's like your grandma and your grandpa said, "Here, baby, go buy snowball." It's like they honestly, I know a lot of these people individually. It's not an enormous organization. Okay, I mean it's finite. Like you can put faces and names to a lot of these folks, and they're just loving, sweet, music appreciating people of the planet. It's pretty.
The closing track on the record has a real upbeat feel to it. It conveys a feeling of moving on and time to be happy again. But I believe it was one of the first songs written for the record.
Yeah, how weird is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whew, Lordy. Crescent City Snow was started 7 days into Katrina's evacuation. We were in Nashville, Tennessee, evacuated at our very dear friends, Pat and Sally McLaughlin. Pat McLaughlin is a singer-songwriter out of Nashville. He's amazing. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yep.
But if you're not, you should be. We were calling them Mama and Papa K. And they took my family and another family from New Orleans. It's just where Russ and I were headed. This other family, I don't know how they ended up in Nashville, but bottom line is they took us in for almost 2 weeks. And it was a very strange first week, needless to say. And at one point, either Pat or our friend Tim Cohen, and I can't remember who, because we were all glued to the television set. We were just glued to CNN, trying to see a rooftop or a friend or find out or what every day. It was just about getting up and going and staring at this TV. And at some point, Pat told us that either the TV broke or something, or he unplugged it. I don't know. But he sent us all outside. Nobody was allowed to watch TV anymore for a couple of days because we were just tripping out too heavily, I guess. And he would make a bonfire each night outside. It was a farm we were on in Franklin, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. Beautiful. And he'd send us all out, set up a bunch of chairs, make a fire, hand everybody an instrument, and let's do something, let's just step away for a little bit. And one of the evenings, and I think it was the 7th day, and it's so weird that I even remember that. And we were heading out to the bonfire, and my husband, Russ, who is also my drummer and manages all of my business, and I don't know what I would do in the whole world without him on every level. So that would be Russ. We stepped out on the porch and we were heading out, to our mandatory fire pit. And it was just like one of those days. It's just like Russ. It's like we didn't even know what we were doing. It's like, where are we? What is, our children are in 2 separate states going to school now, living with other people. It was a trip. And Russ said to me on our way out, I was like, are you okay, babe? You all right tonight? He goes, yeah. He goes, but I said, I feel like a kite without a string. And my little machine just went, oh, brilliant, brilliant visual, yeah, that's where we are. That's who we are right now. And when we all went and settled down by the fire, this song just started coming out. And I asked Pat for his telephone so I could record what was coming, just out of, my head and mouth just for a minute. It took about 2 weeks to end up writing the whole deal. And we actually incorporated a lot of friends and family, like as we were traveling along. I'd sit down with my sister-in-law, Kelly, and just go, okay, what do you miss about New Orleans? What are you looking forward to going home to? And just kind of taking a survey from everybody. That's where that end comes from, or the middle part. I did not mean in any way, shape, or form to write a Katrina song. And by the time we had been traveling in our Kia Sedona for 4 months, all told. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how we were evacuated. And I think about a month in, we had hit a radio station in Pennsylvania, I think. And I had finished the song. And we were on a tour because it was a good time to be touring because there's really nowhere else to be at the time. And I remember performing it at this this station, and I should be able to remember the name of it, and hopefully they'll try it in or something. And we performed the whole song for the first time, and it was almost impossible to get through. However, the deal is we're from New Orleans, and we are survivors here. We are thrivers. And that song had no business being some Debbie Downer kind of song. It's just not how we roll. So that's the story. Too long?
No, not at all. Hey, I take it you're touring this record quite extensively, which is something you didn't get the chance to do with Just Believe It. Are the songs from that record getting equal billing in your shows at the moment? So you're effectively touring 2 CDs at once?
Well, not in the way you just put it, but actually the way you just put it, we should be. I do play a few songs from Just Believe It, but boy, what a really kind of cool idea, John, because Just Believe It came out a month after Katrina, and it really all of its plans and hopes and dreams. You know, we got a pick in Rolling Stone by David Frick, and it just it became a secondary reality, which is so crazy to even think about, because Russ and I sunk every dime and every dream we had into that record. And when it came out a month later, it was almost like, oh yeah, that's great. You know, where's my brother? I need to call and see how my kids are doing in their new school. And it was secondary, which was crazy. We do definitely perform Just Believe It, a lot of the songs, but not as many as we might should. And it might be cool to do like a back-to-back.
There you go. Now, you mentioned the Cowsills documentary earlier. At what stage is that at the moment? I've seen some clips on YouTube. It looks terrific.
Thanks. Thank you. And I think we're actually finally starting to hone in on the end. We're just wrapping up last-minute interviews. You know, we just got Waddy, because Waddy's been involved. I mean, he produced the last 2 Cowsill records. And has been a big part of our lives, you know, at least musically for sure. It says on the little trailers that it's out in 2010, but I think that's lofty. I'm thinking 2011. And we've been working on it since before Katrina, ironically, and maybe Katrina had something to do with its stall out. Barry's in it quite a bit. My brother Bill is even in it. We obtained some footage from an interview, his last interview, and that's also in it, which is really cool. Terrific. So stay tuned. It should be out very soon as in next year, whenever it comes out.
Fantastic. What else is in your books for the 2011? What's in store?
Well, you know, really just trying to promote Lighthouse as much as possible. You know, we still owe the the Threadhead people their money back, which is always my priority. I just want to get everybody who is so generous and loving back what they put in, and see where we can take it. You know, I mean, I think I'm really proud of this record. I think it's really beautiful. And but regardless of that, I mean, it is what it is. It's like having a kid. Okay, so there's your next baby, you know. So what's next? I dare say we actually are talking about making a couple of different kind of records. Brian Henneman from the Bottle Rockets. Do you know who he is?
Vaguely.
Okay. Well, go ahead and Google him on up, because he's really amazing. And he came down and did a Covered in Vinyl with us, and I think we're gonna make a record with him. I just recently made a record, and you may or may not know who these guys are either. Freddie Johnston and John D. Graham.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who are singer-songwriters out of Austin, Texas. Well, no, Freddie isn't. Freddie's just Freddie. Anyway, we've got a record that we're just finished up called The Hobart Family, that I did with these 2 guys, where we wrote and sang all the songs together. You know, Russ and I want to buy a pony someday. Russ would like to ride and or at least camp out alongside the Tour de France at some point in his life. We have 2 beautiful children that takes up all that other time in our lives. They're doing great. I just took my daughter down today to get her driver's license.
Wow.
We're going roller skating this evening when I'm done with you. Really, we're just people living our lives, keeping on and making more music. That's what we do. I don't know what else to do. I think it's a little late for a career change.
Susan, just a delight to catch up with you again. And look, congratulations. I have already stamped this record album of the year, and I truly mean that. It's just wonderful. And it's just a treat to catch up with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your patience on all the scheduling and stuff. Not
a problem at all. And we hope 2011 may include a Susan Cowsill band trip to Australia. That would be great. Oh,
one thing I wanted to say. Do you know that in your phone books, you have more Cowsills in Australia than I found anywhere in the United States? Just saying. Don't know what that's about.
All the more reason to come down and see us.
Yeah, we need to have like a family reunion.
That's great. Thanks again, Susan.
Thank you, John.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.